Hey guys, how's it going? Coach Tyson from Ox Strength, and today we're going to be talking about the Notorious SUMO SOLE Gen 3, and at the same time, which is actually the best flat shoe for powerlifting based on my opinion. And I've literally worn all of these shoes in the past few years, and I'll give you guys my honest update. So the things that I'll be talking about today is mostly going to be which is the closest to the ground. All of these are zero heel drop, meaning it's exactly flat. It's true flat shoe, which is closest to the ground, which has the best grip, which has the most amount of lateral support, which is comfortable. And yeah, I think that's all of the things that I'll be talking about. And a few other things such as how wide the toe box is, how comfortable it is, and how stable is it, because sometimes some of the shoes that I hear are so low to the ground that it almost feels oddly uneven when you're doing certain movements, and then some are too stable and then it may compromise on the stack height. So the shoe that I've worn the longest is actually the Sabo deadlift shoe, but nowadays I try to refrain from using these shoes because it almost feels like it's old technology, and the toe box isn't as wide, the grip isn't as good, but the lateral support and the stack height is pretty good. But I would refrain from using these because it also doesn't come in all of the sizes, and especially the Sabo Pro Deadlift is the absolute worst shoe, I would say, because it's almost got like a heel drop, and then the heel is slightly elevated, and it's also not grippy, but it's quite stable. But I would refrain from using the Sabo deadlift shoes these days for all of those reasons that I talked about. So let's take Sabo out of the equation and then talk about these shoes, which are quite commonly used in the powerlifting scene these days. So first we have the Pro Wolf Deadlift slippers. This is very similar to the Notorious SUMO SOLE Gen 1, but this is extremely budget friendly. Second one we've got here is the Notorious Lift SUMO SOLE Gen 2. These are very similar to that shoe, but then the upper is a bit more stiffer and it provides a little bit more lateral support. Third one is the Notorious Gen 2.5, which is another version of their SUMO SOLE series. This is the Vivo Deadlift Primus Lite 3, and then finally this one is the Notorious Gen 3 SUMO SOLE. Alright, so let's talk about stack height, which is the absolute lowest shoe, which maybe if you're a conventional puller would be absolutely important. So I would say these two, the Vivos and the Notorious Gen 2.5, are absolute lowest to the ground, and according to what Notorious says, this is 2.5 millimeters, and according to Vivo this is 4 with the sole, and without the sole it's 3. But I feel like actually the Vivo is lower than the Notorious in some sense, but this is the lowest shoe that you can get. And then these two are very comparable, I think around 4. And then this Notorious, I don't know why they haven't mentioned it in the website, but maybe for obvious reasons that it's not the lowest to the ground. And initially when you get it, feels like a much bigger shoe. It feels like a shoe, and then it almost looks like it's going to be too high, but it still feels minimalist, and at the same time it doesn't feel like you're too high off the ground. But I would say like this is the highest of these shoes, while these two being the lowest to the ground. So if you want something that's very, very low and you don't care about anything else, then we can get the Vivos or the Notorious. But price is also of a concern, which we'll talk about later in the video. Second, grip. So when we're looking for shoes, especially if you're gonna be bench pressing or you have extremely wide stance, sumo deadlift, grip becomes important. That is where, like for me, the Sabos, I had to change the Sabos because my deadlift was getting wider and wider, and it was impossible for me to use one shoe for the bench press. So I had a squat shoe, I had a bench shoe, and then I had to wear the Sabo too. So that's one of the main reasons why I didn't like the Sabo. And all of the Notorious shoe lifts are really, really good when it comes to the grip. And in this bunch, I think the Vivo lacks in that department. Not that it's a terrible shoe for grip, but especially when you're considering like these Notorious, all of these Notorious, the Vivo is the least impressive in terms of grip, because it's actually not made for powerlifting, right? It's made for sports and walking around casually, and you want to get the barefoot feel. So this doesn't feel grippy at all, so I cannot bench in these. So even when I used to be wearing this for the for my deadlift and squats, I was still using another shoe when it comes to bench press. So the grip in this is not too good, but if you have like a medium stance squat and then not a very wide sumo deadlift, the grip in this is okay. But all of these shoes are really good. I think like the shoes in the front are the best in terms of shoes. I like, even though like these two have a different sort of a grip on them, it's very comparable, and I would say they're equally good in terms of grip. And then this is a close second, and this one would be a third in my personal opinion. But why I like the Sumo Sole Gen 2, the Sumo Sole Gen 3, and also why I use the Vivo is because of the lateral support that I was getting. So when I use the original Sabo, this has really good lateral support because it's got a lot of fabric and it's also got high top design, and this had a lot of lateral support. So I really relied on external rotation when it came to my shoes. And when I switched, first I switched to this shoe, right? So whenever I was using this shoe, I had no lateral support whatsoever. So my heels were constantly slipping out of the shoe, almost like the shoe was opening out for me, because it's basically got nothing. It's got really good grip, but and when you have more grip, it allows you to give more lateral pressure, and the strap is pretty much useless on this shoe. So I couldn't use this shoe at all. So I was using this for accessories and all of these things. So because of the lateral support, even if the sole was really low to the ground and it was a much grippier sole, I could not use this because I could not squat in these shoes whatsoever. So I could bench in it because the grip was decent, but there was no lateral support. So this has the absolute worst, I would say, lateral support of these shoes. And if you need any sort of a lateral support, then I would definitely not go against getting these shoes in a way, because it has no lateral support. And that's the reason why I downsized and moved on to the Sumo Sole Gen 2, because I heard like this has much better lateral support in comparison to this shoe. And I also sized down for this just to get a more snug feeling. So this has decent lateral support. I wouldn't say as good as the Sabos, but it was all right for me. So then I stuck to wearing these shoes, but I still wanted something more. So this is the time that I started experimenting with a lot of shoes. Like almost all of these shoes that you're seeing now is a byproduct of this not having lateral support, and then getting into the whole idea of finding the best shoe. So even the Gen 1 is very similar to the Gen 2, but still not enough. So I tried the Vivo. So this Vivo definitely a bit more lateral support than the older Notorious versions. But then when it came to the Vivo, the toe box is so wide that I cannot actually feel the lateral wall of the shoe. So it's got some lateral support, but then it's not like so effective in terms of powerlifting sense. So my technique was suffering a bit. And finally, when I got these shoes at last, I think these have the absolute best lateral support of all of these shoes, even compared to the Sabo deadlift. Even though it looks much more minimalist in nature, this has absolutely the best lateral support that you can get in a shoe. So if I were to rank them, this would be one, these would be, I think, a close third, second, and then last. All right, so with all of these things said, and my final verdict is that I sort of am leaning towards the Notorious Gen 3s, even though it has a slightly higher stack height. That comes with a few advantages for me, especially because the lowest shoe does not matter, because it's like, for example, the Vivo is so low to the ground that when I'm trying to adjust my feet, I also spoke about this in the Vivo review, when I adjust my feet, like the shoe would sort of be on the floor in a weird angle, and some part of the shoe would be in the air, while like it would basically be bent, because it's like really flexible, right? So some part, like it would be crunched in the middle sometimes. So it was not necessarily a good shoe. So I bought a really expensive shoe, but it's almost, I would say now that I have these shoes, it's almost useless, and it doesn't provide me any benefits, right? Second, this shoe, because of the lateral support, I can't use it. So I just, for fun, like to call these the best shoe for accessories, because it's easy to wear on and off. And then these shoes, I would still wear them sometimes if I want like a snug feeling shoe. So if you have somebody that doesn't focus so much on rooting and finding the outside wall of the shoe, then these shoes are actually pretty good. I would say, like, if this weren't made yet, then I would definitely go with these shoes for lifting, because these shoes are really, really good, and I think for all of the lifts that you can wear these. But finally, why I decided to stick to this is that it's extremely stable. It's got a wide toe box similar to the Vivo, but with lateral support, and the grip does not, it is still a minimalist shoe, and it's flexible, but it does not move around like how it would be on the Vivos. And I can actually wear this shoe for all 3 lifts, including the squat, bench press, and deadlifts. And yeah, all of these shoes are actually true to size, so whichever size you get one of the shoes, it's, I think, the same for all of these shoes. And I think I would consider these to be my favorite shoe for now, until we get the Avangas, which is getting released today, but then I don't know when I can get my hands on them. So for now, Notorious Gen 3 for me is the best shoe for powerlifting. A flat shoe for powerlifting, covers all of the grounds that we talked about. And yeah, guys, that is my 2 thoughts on these shoes. Hope you guys liked the review. If you liked it, let us know by leaving comments down in the comment section down below. Make sure that you like this video, share it with your friends, and yeah, that's about it. If you want customized training templates, coaching from anyone from Oxstrength System, links are in the description down below, and we will see you in the next one. Be strong.